Judy, when President-elect Trump is sworn in 10 weeks from today, he promises to begin rewriting history for more than 1,560 people already charged with January 6th crimes, and at least that many more who are still out there. Tonight, the Biden Justice Department continues tracking, arresting, and prosecuting people who crashed the Capitol on January 6th. Among the targets, Donald J. Trump, who may pardon himself for January 6th crimes, along with many others who were involved that day. The FBI tonight continues to pump out new videos from January 6, 2021, as Justice Department officials focus on still unidentified rioters who attacked law enforcement that day. These two suburban Chicago men are the latest from Illinois to be charged with felonies and misdemeanors. With Donald Trump's election comes a twist of fate that would appear to ensure their good fortune, and a stroke of luck for many of those already convicted or under investigation for January 6th crimes. Mr. Trump has promised to free the so-called political prisoners of January 6th.
He's allowed to do that because he possesses the power of the pardon, which is one of the most powerful tools in the chief executive's toolkit.
Do you expect that to happen?
And the short answer is, yeah, he can do that. First, as to the protesters or the violent protesters who broke the law and have not yet been charged, he can obviously order his Department of Justice not to bring those charges. If there are cases that are pending, that haven't yet been resolved, haven't gone to trial and conviction, he can drop those charges. He can dismiss those cases. And as to those who have already been convicted, he can pardon them.
Those wearing January 6th jackets include the president-elect himself, with Mr. Trump soon to also possess the ability to pardon rioters, police attackers, and himself for any and all January 6th crimes, or the myriad other crimes the president-elect faces, or the felonies for which he's already been convicted.
He characterizes legal efforts against him as political conspiracies. So to my mind, he is undermining the rule of law and equality before the law. But that does not appear to be the case to many of his supporters.
Although President-elect Trump has taken to calling the riot convicts J6 patriots, he does say that if a case involves somebody who was evil and bad, to use his words, he would look at them differently. It remains to be seen whether that will include the 18 people charged with seditious conspiracy or those who hit police with brass knuckles, anti-bear spray, flag sticks, or carried in knives, axes, swords, or guns in a few cases. But we will find out soon enough, coming up in January.